Salutations already. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, he's our own Pentaverate. He is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
I'm the grand poobah of the Pentaverate, John. There's so much great movie news and exciting stuff dropping. Loki starts tonight at midnight on Disney Plus. I mean, John, I got to say, coming out of the pandemic, I'm feeling excitement like I haven't felt in a long time.
Yeah,
great news.
We got so much stuff coming out of the gates now. It is so great. And yes, Loki starts tonight. That's right, at midnight for us. I mean, for some people, it'll be early in the morning. And by the way, guys, don't forget, that means tomorrow afternoon, probably around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, maybe 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to be doing our first Loki Episode 1 open spoiler discussion. Now, we're not doing pregame for Loki because the show hasn't even started yet. So there's no point in doing a pregame. We will start pregame next week, but we will do our episode 1 open spoiler discussion tomorrow. Make sure you guys come and join us for that. And by the way, Daniel Skinner sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that, man. And so we hope you will come and join us for that. By the way, Rob, I have finally been getting into... Well, okay, so not just getting into it now, but Ann and I started watching Mayor of Easttown about a week ago. We watched the first episode, and it was good. Clearly, it's just setting everything up, the first episode. Last night, we finally got around to watching the second episode. Done. I'm hooked. Oh, just episode 2, things get bonkers. So now I know a lot of you guys have been talking about Mayor of Easttown, and that Ann and I should get, on that pretty quick. So we watched the first episode, but last night we watched the second episode. I'm like, oh my God, this thing gets bonkers pretty fast.
It's really good, John, and it sticks the landing.
Oh, well, wait, obviously I need to get there, but so far, so good. All right, guys, here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to split the show up as we always do into 2 parts. The first half of the show, we're going to discuss some predetermined topics. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. How do you get a live comment or question on the show? It's easy. Just go down into the description of this video and you'll see a tip link. Click on it there, or you can enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us involved here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys so much for your support. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into a couple of off the top, shall we? And our first off the top is this. Rob, one of my favorite on-screen comedy duos for a bunch of different things, but is Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. I love both of these guys. I mean, that whole kind of group of them, like including Steve Carell and things like that, John C. Reilly. I love that entire group of performers, and I love all the chemistry they bring together. Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell, obviously going back to Anchorman. I love their chemistry together. What I did not know, I'll be honest with you, this flew completely under my radar. I didn't know about this, but Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell have a new comedy series they're doing together, and it's coming to Apple TV Plus, and it's going to be called The Shrink Next Door, which is apparently it's based on a podcast, The Shrink Next Door podcast. It's going to be based on that, where Paul Rudd is apparently playing a famous psychiatrist to the stars, and then Will Ferrell plays his patient, but he slowly starts to take over Will Ferrell's life. He starts to take over, moves into Will Ferrell's home. He takes over his business, apparently all that. It sounds great. And Rob, on top of Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell, Catherine Hahn is going to be the star. So, and again, obviously going back to, that's like an Anchorman reunion right there. Because of course, Catherine Hahn was in Anchorman as well. So you got Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd, Catherine Hahn on Apple TV Plus, which has been impressing me a lot, other than the Jason Momoa show C, which I thought was terrible, even though I love Jason Momoa, but they have been killing it with their content. This sounds exciting to me. Rob, I'm excited to hear about this. What do you think about the sounds of The Shrink Next Door?
What's not to love about this? I recently saw at the Avengers campus that opened at Disney California Adventure, the opening ceremonies, Paul Rudd came out and kind of did a little bit of hosting, welcomed the reporters to it at all. And I'm just like, I love this guy. I love Paul Rudd. I mean, I love you, man. I
Oh,
love
so do
Paul.
I.
I love Ant-Man, and putting Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell back together. And this sounds like this is my kind of comedy. This is the comedy I like. It's situational. Look, sure, Ron Burgundy, Anchorman, all that. That's funny, but I prefer more of that real world situational comedy stuff. That's why I like movies like the original Arthur and Tootsie and things like that. But that's why I like I Love You, Man. And this sounds great to me. I'll watch this.
Yeah, I think this sounds fantastic. And obviously, I'm all about Catherine Hahn, so get her in there too. This to me sounds great. Guys, what do you think about the sounds of The Shrink Next Door? Maybe you're over the Will Ferrell era sort of thing. I still think there's gas in the tank, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's do another off the top, and that is this. Rob, in the world we live in today, we always hate hearing about, rich people scamming the not rich to make more money. And so one of the big crimes, that gets a lot of attention in the media when it happens is the insider trading. Insider trading.
Right.
Didn't what's her name go to jail for that? The home making guru, best friend
Martha Stewart.
That's right, Martha Stewart. Snoop Dogg's best friend. They are actually like bros off screen. I mean, they are actually like I was watching interviews with them. They actually talk all the time. They're like besties. But whatever. Okay, that's great. So I mean, we love hearing about this stuff. Happens all the time. So a piece of news came out on CNN that was talking about a bunch of AMC insiders, including several key executives, just recently sold a whole ton of their AMC stock, their own stock, to the tune of raising for themselves personally $8 million. $8 million. Now, I'm going to see if I can get the specific people here. Here we go. So this is where it comes to us. It says, the filings show that Carla, I don't know Carla's last name, Chavarria, AMC's chief human resources officer, sold 40,346 shares last week and raked in personally $2.5 million. And she still holds more than 44,000 AMC shares, the filing indicated. The other three AMC executives who sold their shares last week were John McDonald, the Executive Vice President of U.S. Operations, Daniel Ellis, Senior Vice President of Development and International, and Elizabeth Frank, the Chief Content Officer. So they collectively sold a bunch of stock for $8 million. And instantly, and understandably, Rob, a lot of the questions become, is this another case of insiders in a company having knowledge of what's going to be happening, leveraging that knowledge to take advantage of the market and screw over other people and making a fortune? And honestly, to me, it doesn't look like that at all. It honestly, and because you guys know, I've had some pretty pissy things to say about AMC recently, particularly,
right,
their joke of a CEO. But in all honesty, there's actually nothing wrong with this situation. I've seen some people saying, oh, this is sketchy. But the reality is this. They just have these stocks because here's the thing. When you take a big position at a significant company, often one of the things that is included in your compensation package is stock. You get stock. When Ann went to work with Amazon, Rob, when Ann went over to work with Amazon, one of the reasons she accepted the job was because included in the salary and the benefits was also a certain amount of Amazon stock. When she went to Apple, one of the things that enticed her over to Apple, Ann being my wife, by the way, was that they included Apple stock. So I'm sure a lot of these guys over at AMC, they got a bunch of stock too. But guess what? That stock is now theirs to sell or keep as they choose. And when you get that stock, Rob, and that stock is probably like $8 when you get it, and then through some fluke, because it's not going to stay that high, through some fluke, it hits like $65, and you know it's going to come down probably to $15 to $10. That's probably where it's going to even out. That's a good value for it. Why wouldn't you sell it? So honestly, I look at this situation, Rob, I don't see anything sketchy going on. These are just share owners. They saw that the value of the shares was infinitely higher than what it was when they got them. They had an opportunity to sell their shares and reap the profits from it because the stock will probably never be that high again. As a matter of fact, the stock is already about $13 lower than it was when they sold it a few days ago. So, hey, listen, I'm ready to jump all over AMC for stupid, idiotic things they do over there. But quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with this situation here, and I think it's perfectly fine. Rob, you've had a chance to look at this situation. What do you make of it?
I'm with you. I mean, look, whether this is a meme bolstered stock or whatever, the fact is it was happening. It was legal. Everyone in Wall Street is up in arms about these kinds of things because they've never had sort of everyday people come in and manipulate the markets fully out in the open in the way that these meme stocks have been bolstered by social media. This is something new. And I say, hey, if you get out while the getting's good, more power to you. That's what everyone, I mean, the way stock manipulation has gone on for so very long, to have a new player, meaning us, the everyday person, to come in and be able to benefit from bolstering stock like this, why not? I think it's a fine thing. And you know what? If Wall Street is, they have to, like every other industry, you have to deal with disruption from social media. Welcome to the party, pal.
All right. The question is for you guys. You now hear about this, about a couple of AMC executives getting rich off selling their stock. I think it seems to be completely above board to me. To be honest, they saw an opportunity. They took advantage of it. I don't think they broke any rules. How do you guys feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. Oh, and by the way, Soul Brother Mark sends in a super chat badge in the live chat there. Thank you, Soul Brother Mark. I appreciate that. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to yet another off the top. We do have a few of them here today. And that off the top is this. Rob, I think one of the biggest travesties in entertainment over the past 20 years has been an unbearable lack of Mike Myers. I think, whereas Mike Myers became a staple for a long time, whether it was, on obviously his time on SNL, which was great. So I Married an Axe Murderer. Obviously his Austin Powers movies, Garth, whatever, Wayne's World. We have had, because Rob, what happened was Mike Myers was a super hot name, right? Super hot name. Yeah. And then he did that movie, The Love Guru. And let's be honest, Love Guru was terrible. It was awful. And I think it was the first real failure for Mike Myers. I mean, which you're going to, look, when you put out a lot of content, eventually you're going to hit a roadblock, right? And I think that was just it for him, but I think it affected him very personally. He's talked about it before. And then ever since then, he kind of disappeared out of the public eye. And he's popped up a little bit in a few things here and there, like a little role in Terminal, a little small role in Inglourious Basterds, but he's really kept out of the limelight a lot. Well, not anymore. Because we heard about this a while ago, but now it's actually moving ahead full steam. He's got a new show coming to Netflix. And Rob, I cannot believe how excited I am about this. He's got a new show coming to Netflix called The Pentaveret. And if that word sounds familiar to you, we'll talk about it in a second. But the name of the show is The Pentaveret. And on top of that show, now moving full steam ahead with Mike Myers starring and producing in it, and it's coming to Netflix, they've just added a couple more cast members, including the incredible Keegan-Michael Key and Ken Jeong. So that's pretty exciting in and of itself. And by the way, sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thanks, man. So here's the thing. What's this about? What's the Pentaveret? Let me just ask you guys in the live chat if you guys remember what the Pentaveret is. All right? Here's what it is. For those of you who knew this, goody to you, it is, of course, from So I Married an Axe Murderer. When the dad, he says, hit, move it, head, now, all that kind of stuff. The dad, He talks about the Pentaveret. They've controlled all the world's affairs. They include the Queen, the Vatican, and and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up. I mean, that's the Pentaveret. The whole idea of the show is, well, let's read it right here. In the half-hour series, right here, 5 men have been working to influence world events for the greater good since the Black Plague of 1347. As the show begins, one unlikely Canadian journalist finds himself embroiled in a mission to uncover the truth and just possibly save the world himself. So we got some old So I Married an Axe Murder things. I don't think he's playing the same character. Like, I don't think he's playing So I Married an Axe Murder character in it. But to me, this sounds fantastic, Rob. I am so down with this. This, first of all, because we need Mike Myers back in about, I've been lamenting for years, Rob. We need Mike Myers back. So he's coming back now in a big way, drawing him some old material that he did with So I Married an Axe Murderer, even though this is not a So I Married an Axe Murderer spinoff or anything like that. It's still its own thing. The concept sounds great. Adding guys like Keegan-Michael Key is fantastic to me. Well, I'm not going to lie. And of course, he's a good Canadian kid. I'm very excited about this. I think this sounds fantastic. What do you make of this?
It sounds hilarious. I mean, come on. Look, in our time when everybody is believing in any conspiracy that falls off a turnip truck, I think this is exactly the kind of show we need. I think it's going to be hilarious. I think the cast is going to be hilarious. And I really hope that it goes for the jugular. I can't wait.
What do you think about like Keegan-Michael Key and Ken Jeong joining this?
Well, okay. Look, I like Keegan-Michael Key and Ken Jeong. I've liked him. I hope the comedy isn't so over the top. Right. You know, I'd like to have it more of that deadpan humor as opposed to broad slapsticky humor. That's what I would hope for the show.
Yeah, because sometimes Ken Jeong's a mixed bag for me because sometimes he's a little much. I've seen a couple of comedies that he's been in that he's a little much, but sometimes he brings the house down. Like whether you're looking at his roles in like The Hangover, I thought he was perfect. He was perfect for his character in Crazy Rich Asians. Community, he was really good on, but sometimes he can be a little much. So it's going to be a good challenge for them to know how to use him properly, because he can bring a lot if used properly, but if just kind of let off the chain, it can get a little much, I think.
Agreed.
So we'll see how that goes. Question is for you guys. What do you guys think about this whole idea? Pentaveret coming from Mike Myers, coming back, coming to Netflix soon. What do you guys think about it? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's do one more off the top, shall we? And that one is this. One of the new projects that's been on the way from DC, and I've been interested in all of them except this one. Superpets. They've been talking about Superpets for years, right? For years. Now, we heard a little while ago that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was going to be the lead voice in it. He's going to be doing the voice of Crypto, the super dog. So we've known that for a little while. But this morning, Warner Brothers has put out a new little promo piece that gives us, that's, by the way, in the background of this promo piece that's playing is the John Williams Superman theme. Ba, 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 ba. I mean, it works pretty well. And basically the whole purpose of this little video that they put out was just to announce, you know, the cast. So we've already known that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was going to be Crypto. So we've got that. Kevin Hart, because these days Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Kevin Hart are joined at the hip, apparently. So he's going to be doing Ace. But also added to the cast are Kate McKinnon, John Krasinski, Vanessa Bayer, Natasha Lyonne, Diego Luna, and of course, Keanu Reeves are going to be in the voice thing. It's a very nice and impressive voice lineup. A lineup good enough to finally get me a little bit invested in caring about DC Super Pets? No, I still don't care about this. I still think this is a dumb idea. But I don't know, maybe it'll be cute. I certainly do like the cast, though. I mean, obviously, I love Dwayne Johnson. I like Kevin Hart, John Krasinski, Keanu Reeves. I mean, it's a great voice cast, but if it's not a good movie, it doesn't matter who you have doing the voices. It won't make a lick of difference. So, yeah, giving us a really impressive lineup of names, Rob, is not enough to get me excited about this. I'm still not. Now, listen, I'm not saying that there's no possibility this movie may not be great. Maybe it will be. I love it when movies surprise us like that and turns out to be great. I hope it is. But I'm not going to lie and pretend like I'm excited about this, because I think this is the only thing, Rob, on the DC upcoming lineup that I just have zero interest in. But I know, Rob, where's your expectation level right now for Superpets? Are you excited for it? And does this, frankly, very impressive voice cast lineup change that at all for you?
Well, okay. You know, I am just predisposed in general to liking comic book related material, but the whole premise behind Superpets seems to me to be more geared toward, let's call it, a younger audience, unless they're going to skew older and go something like Venture Brothers or something like that,
which we both know they won't.
Yeah, but I mean, look, the voice cast is impressive, and hey, if it's got great animation, John, I want everything to be good. They certainly have the right voice cast, but really for this, it comes down to me, first and foremost, animation's all about the writing and the animation. And if it's great, I'll watch it. So to me, I'm cautiously awaiting this show with some trepidation. Right. But I'm crossing my fingers that it's good.
It's a great cast. It is a great voice cast, but I don't think that's really going to mean a lick of difference to anything else. But we will see. Maybe it'll be fantastic. I mean, listen, I was completely skeptical about the Lego movie before it came out. I'm like, you're making a movie about plastic building blocks, you idiots. But it turned out to be awesome, and maybe this could be the next one in that. Question for you guys is this. What do you think about this Superpets movie? Where were your expectations before? Does this voice lineup change your expectations at all? How are you feeling about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's now move into our main topics today, shall we? And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you think we should have as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Rob, what is our first main topic today?
Well, John, our first main topic comes from Reed Foreman. Hello, John and crew. Hope you're all having a great day. I wanted to know if you heard the news that Rob Zombie was developing a new movie based on the Munsters. I think this is a very interesting choice for the project and could lead to many different directions the film could ultimately take. Zombie is a huge fan of the show, and I'm eager to see what his take will be. What are your thoughts? Well, Joe Blow says, we've got another incarnation of the Munsters coming on the way, as Rob Zombie has revealed that his next film will be a reboot of the classic series. Zombie's been a huge fan of the Munsters for years, and there have been rumors that he would be directing a new take on the franchise for quite some time. But now it's finally official. Geez, you know, Rob Zombie's always been sort of hit and miss with me. And I haven't seen, I mean, his take based on his previous work, whether it's Halloween, whether it's, you know, the Captain Spaulding and the crew from those films, I think his Munsters, I can't imagine it's going to be anything like we would have seen before. I imagine them to be like a horribly murderous clan that just dispatches with people in the worst ways, but that wouldn't really be the Munsters, would it? So, look, again, I think it's interesting that a creator like Rob Zombie would take on the Munsters. I think the potential there, it's either going to be really great or it's going to be a major misfire. That's kind of what I think about it. What are your thoughts?
I wish I could muster any enthusiasm for this, but I just can't. I honestly, I just can't in almost any way, shape, or form get excited about this because, number one, I don't care. I'll be honest. I don't care that much about the Munsters. I was a little bit more, I mean, a lot of these shows are before my time anyway. I watched the reruns of these, but I was more an Addams Family guy than I was a Munsters. Although the Munsters were okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not crapping on the Munsters, but it's just, it wasn't my favorite thing of all time. But to be honest, while I love his music, I really can't stand Rob Zombie as a director. I mean, he recently did 3 from Hell, which I didn't think was very good. Now, he did that movie 31, but honestly, I never saw it. That's one I never saw. I never saw 31. It didn't interest me, and I never got around to watching that. He did this one called Lords of Salem, which actually wasn't that bad. I think Lords of Salem might be my favorite Rob Zombie movie that he did, and that's not saying much because I certainly didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. And then you've got then you've got his Halloween movies. I don't even want to discuss those. I mean, I thought those were absolutely terrible. Now, then you got his kind of 2 main marquee ones, right? Rob, you've got you've got House of a Thousand Corpses, and you've got Devil's Rejects. Those are the ones that most people who are fans of Rob Zombie stuff, they will think of these 2 movies, right?
And 3 from Hell, because they're all part of the
right,
same.
And that's which we mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't think they just didn't work for me. I didn't think they were very good either. So honestly, I thought Lords of Salem wasn't too bad, but that's 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 5. And so I'm just not on board. So the concept of him doing a Munsters movie, well, I mean, this is as predictable as the sun rising, right? Obviously, we know what he's going to do with it. This is not going to be the Munsters that people know and love for those that love them. And that's okay. I don't mind a filmmaker taking a different spin on some recognizable IP. That can be cool. I just don't have trust that what his spin is going to be is going to end up being very good. Now, again, you never know, right? He's been doing this a lot of years. You pick up things over the years, and maybe you get better, and he picks up some new tricks, and maybe this Munsters thing will be amazing to me. But Rob, I got to be honest. Right now, I look at it, and I think, really? Rob Zombie doing the Munsters? But John, he's a big fan of the Munsters. That doesn't mean shit. Like, I hate to break it to people, but that really doesn't mean anything at all. So yeah, Rob, I just got to be honest. I look at this. I don't have a lot of hope of this, and I certainly don't have any interest. Do you think, Rob, that something like this, that Rob Zombie doing the Munsters can get the attention and excitement of a significant portion of the movie-going audience that aren't already Rob Zombie fans?
Probably not. I mean, I look, if it's really well cast and it's really well done. I mean, we've seen reboots of The Addams Family. We had Mockingbird Lane that Bryan Singer directed, that Brian Fuller produced. And I always think, I can't help but whenever I think of the Munsters, which I loved growing up, I think of both the Munsters and The Addams Family. And it's a very specific kind of a thing for me. And I can't envision Rob Zombie's version of it. And maybe that's because my imagination is limited, but I knowing his sensibility, I think he's going to change it significantly. But maybe not. Maybe I didn't think Guy Ritchie directing Aladdin was I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And that turned out pretty well. So I at first give me a healthy dose of skepticism, but upon reflection, I would wait and see what happens before I poo-poo the efforts of Mr. Zombie for getting this off the ground.
Question is for you guys. What do you think about the idea of Rob Zombie doing a Munsters movie? Maybe you love the Munsters and Rob Zombie. Maybe you don't care about the Munsters or Rob Zombie. Maybe it's a mix of the two. Wherever you guys are at, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Sprill, who writes, "Greetings, John and Rob. With more than 55 million households who watched Shadow and Bone in the first 28 days, the series has been renewed for a second season. While I did enjoy the series, I feel like it left a lot on the table, and I'm hoping season 2 will be better than the first one. Your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Sam. And yeah, Shadow and Bone came out. And listen, Rob, there was a lot of attention actually given to Shadow and Bone. I actually think it got more attention and was given better promotion by Netflix than even Jupiter's Legacy did. And, well, Jupiter's Legacy wasn't all that great. I will say this. I didn't think Shadow and Bone was fantastic, but it was pretty good. What it did have, you know what it reminded me a lot of, Rob? Remember the first Underworld movie?
Yes.
That's
a good... Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, right? So the movie was okay, but the mythology and the underlying context of the story was so good that you knew there was a lot of potential for this franchise. Even if the first movie wasn't like super fantastic, you could tell there was a lot of potential there with this mythology. With Shadow and Bone, I really kind of felt the same way. It's like, okay, I don't think this is great. But the way they put in the underlying mythology of this world and what happens in it and the different casts of people in it, there's some potential here, and I could see them maybe doing a second season, depending on how the numbers did. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Variety who write, the fantasy series Shadow and Bone has been renewed for a second season. The streamer announced on Monday during its Geeked Week. Set in the mythical kingdom of Ravka, which is split in two by a massive dark storm called The Fold. Shadow and Bone was an instant hit when it debuted on Netflix on April 23rd, reaching number 1 on the streamer's top 10 list in 79 countries, including the US, Australia, Germany, Russia, Brazil, Spain, and South Africa. According to Netflix, more than 55 million households watched the series in its first 28 days. And again, that comes us from the folks over at Variety. So, yeah, it gets picked up and good for it. I think this thing has potential to be better than the first season was. That being said, I do want to point out one thing, Rob. And I put out a social media tweet about this after I finished watching Shadow and Bone, which is this. Ben Barnes, who from, Westworld, he was, of course, in Punisher, of course. With Punisher, he was in there. But he's been in a bunch of other stuff. Ben Barnes, to me, is a guy that simply does not get enough credit. Ben Barnes is a guy, and I'm serious about it. I'm not using hyperbole here. Whenever I see this guy on screen, all he does is deliver. Whether it's in a Punisher or Shadow and Bone or Westworld or whatever, all he does is deliver. He delivers every time. You can throw any kind of character you want at this guy, and he just seems to be able to nail it every single time, and he elevates the material that he's given. You add on top of that, he's got the Hollywood A-list good looks. I mean, that's just a really good man. And I won't say this often, Rob. So take this as I don't say this often. So let the weight of this sit on you. I think Ben Barnes is better looking than me. He's better looking than me, Rob. This is a handsome, handsome man. So you combine, all of this. He's got all the talent in the world. He can do any kind of material from dramatic to comedy to action to fantasy, whatever. He's got the big, I remember a couple of weeks ago, I tweeted out, like, somebody needs to explain to me why Ben Barnes is seriously not a true A-list level figure in Hollywood right now, because I think the dude has all the tools, and I really enjoy seeing him in that. And I'll say, along that vein, I think him in Shadow and Bone elevates it. I'll go so far as to say this. I think without Ben Barnes, I don't think Shadow and Bone gets a second season. So I thought he was the best part of it. Anyway, Rob, you hear all this about Shadow and Bone, and this thing is now here and coming. What do you think about it getting renewed? Were you surprised? Are you happy about it? How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, it's academic. If people are watching the show and they like it and the numbers are there, the thing about these streaming services, Netflix knows exactly who's watching what and for how long. And they've got these real-time analytics. And I think for them, it's just academic. People like this show. Our audience members are we got this many people watching, 55 million households in 28 days. That's a lot of people. And I would assume based on their analytics or whatever, they're just like, yep, renewed. You're renewed. And it makes sense to me. And I think any show that's pulling down those kinds of numbers, they're like, yep, renew it. And I think it's good. I there's a lot I think about the show to like, and it's interesting. It was fascinating. I liked the characters, and I didn't know anything about it before I started watching it. And I think it's a good show. If it comes back, would I be waiting for it the same way I'd be waiting for, I don't know, the next season of The Mandalorian? Probably not, but it's still definitely a worthwhile diversion. So I'm glad that it got renewed. I'm always glad to see people continuing to work, and anything that's science fiction, fantasy, or horror related, when it gets a second season, I consider that a victory because those genres are my favorites. So it also just makes the landscape better for these kinds of shows. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Well, the question is for you guys. What do you think about Shadow and Bone getting renewed for a second season? Did you see the first season? What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not? Are you surprised it's coming back? Whatever you guys are thinking, jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 3. Rob, what is our third main topic today?
Well, Reeves Williams says, I saw yesterday on The Boys' official Twitter page that they tweeted a first look of former Supernatural star Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, and it looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see this character that I don't know much about brought to life in season 3. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. And MovieWeb says, Jensen Ackles' look as Soldier Boy in season 3 of The Boys has finally been revealed. Over the past several weeks, Ackles has posted various teases of his imminent debut on the popular Amazon superhero series. Those have mostly consisted of images of Ackles on the set showing off his new bushy beard, but not until now have we gotten a full photo of him in costume. I got to say, I too, like Reeves, I looked at these photos yesterday and I was like, man, again, I think one of the things that The Boys has been killing it with is their costume design for their heroes. And I mean, Homelander, Nazi Superman, so well done. I really like the costumes on the show, and it looks to me, the Soldier Boy costume, they could have gone more red, white, and blue with it, I suppose, but that would have been, of course, treading into very familiar territory.
Copyright issues.
So, yeah, but I loved that costume. I thought they did a fantastic job. And, season 2 might not have been as great as season 1, but I still really liked it. Really liked The Boys a lot. I can't wait to see what they do with season 3. And Stormfront was a great addition to season 2. I'm hoping Soldier Boy will be just as enjoyable to watch for season 3. So to me, John, I'm thinking big win. What about you?
Yeah, well, first, look, I am obviously a big Supernatural fan. So Jensen Ackles coming into The Boys, I was excited about that when I first heard it. And of course there is a connection there because the showrunner of The Boys is the same guy who was the showrunner at one point of Supernatural and brought him in there. And so to have him come in here is great. You're right. This show has done a great job with its costuming and all that kind of stuff. It certainly looked a lot better than Jupiter's Legacy's costumes. And so it is what it is. This costume in particular is interesting because, first of all, you cannot deny the similarities to Captain America. He's got the star in the middle. He's got the shield. He's Soldier Boy. But Rob, did you see the specific, what they tweeted out with this image, what it said? It said this. It said, and the comma is important here. He says, he's your captain, comma, America. Oh, yeah. So obviously you're playing the words of captain. He's your captain, comma, America. He's your Captain America. So basically they're leaning into, instead of trying to pretend like this costume is not a Captain America knockoff, they're kind of leaning into it. And they're even playing with the words. Yeah, obviously this is a Captain America-like figure. That's who this is and is in this. And apparently it's going to be a much more major role this season than I thought. Because when I first heard that he was going to be in this and playing this role, I assumed, and badly so, I assumed that it was going to be a relatively small role, like he'll pop up in one episode, but apparently it's going to be throughout the season. So I'm very excited to hear this. I think the costume looks great. The question is for you guys, What do you think about the new costume of Soldier Boy on Jensen Ackles coming up in The Boys Season 3? Maybe you don't even watch The Boys, and if you don't, you really got to get on that. You got to start watching The Boys. It's absolutely incredible. I love the fact that Jensen's there. How do you guys feel about it? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Mitchell A. And Mitchell A writes, "Hey, John, for a while now you've been saying that you'll only actually believe that Indy 5 is going to happen when you see Ford on set with his hat and his jacket. Well, we now have a ton of pictures showing just that. What are your thoughts now that it is in the realm of tangibility?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, I have been saying for a very, very long time, Rob, amidst all the delays and all the director change, the one big director change, obviously, when Steven Spielberg is the one stepping away, it's a big deal. With the director change and all that kind of stuff, I've said, listen, I know they keep saying they're going to do Indiana Jones 5, and I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, Rob, it appears that seeing is believing. This comes to us from Screen Rant, who writes, James Mangold rounded out the film's supporting cast, recruiting big names like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, and Boyd Holbrook to the ensemble. Of course, Ford is back to portray Indiana Jones for presumably the final time. Considering all of the issues Indiana Jones went through on its way to production, it's been exciting to see the film make progress and start principal photography. The first wave of Indiana Jones 5 set photos gave viewers a look at the new locations that will be seen in the movie. Those weren't the most revealing images, but now that there's a new look of Ford back in action. And yep, we've got it, Rob. We've got our picture now of Harrison Ford on set. And I said, I need to see Ford on set in the hat and in the jacket. Well, it's almost like Lucasfilm said, challenge accepted. And they went ahead and they now put out, and we see now they're on location of Indiana Jones 5. We got Harrison Ford there donning the very familiar fedora, the jacket, the shirt. I mean, everything. I mean, the boots, the pants, the shirt, everything. It's all lining up to everything that the show was, that the thing was before. And Rob, I'm going to tell you right now, I still don't 100% believe that this movie's coming out. This is all an illusion. It's all an illusion, an elaborate prank being pulled to manipulate stock prices and whatever. Look, they're shooting the movie. It's now happening. It's on the way. I still won't be surprised at all if it doesn't happen. But anyway, Rob, the bottom line is, for the first time in a long time, we've got pictures of Harrison Ford as Indy again. Now, look, you know I haven't been tremendously excited about this because it feels like this is too late. There have been way too many delays. Harrison Ford will be 80 when this movie opens in theaters. He'll be 80. And I'm all for older action stars. 80 is getting there, though, about being a believable action star. But who knows? We'll see.
Getting there? Come on
okay. He's there. He's arrived. So, and let's take anything away from him. Harrison Ford keeps himself in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
The weights, the walking, and crashing airplanes. It seems to be his favorite hobby. But he keeps himself in great shape. He looks good. I don't know that's... Look, okay, I'll admit it. Seeing him again in the hat and in the jacket, I would be less than completely honest if I didn't tell you at least got me a little bit excited. I didn't think it would. I didn't think, I think somebody even once asked me, well, John, how do you think you're going to feel when you finally see a picture of him in the fedora? I'm saying it's not going to make any difference. But now I actually am looking at him as in a picture in the hat and the jacket. And I won't lie. It gets me a little bit excited. I still have my doubts about the film overall, but they've got a tremendous director in James Mangold on board. They've got an incredible supporting cast. So, I mean, maybe there's hope there. Anyway, Rob, the images come out. Number one, what do you think of the images? Number two, do the images do anything for you as far as your excitement or anticipation for an Indiana Jones 5?
Well, look, I think we all want this movie to be good, but obviously the big thing that is first out of everyone's mind or out of their mouths is the guy's going to be 80. And Indiana Jones is a swashbuckling, hard-fighting, hard-living, traveling the world character, getting into places where most mortal men fear to tread. And when you think of our character if they're going to play it in real time, have him be in the mid-70s and he's going to be 78 years old, which I think they kind of have to do. I have less enthusiasm for it. In a way, it's kind of like, Bela Lugosi was in Ed Wood, where you see this sad old man who was a shadow of his former self when he played Dracula, still trying to hold on to that role. And seeing him, I gotta say, seeing him in the fedora and the same clothes that he wore as a 35-year-old or 30-year-old adventurer in Raiders doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I know that's sort of his uniform, and when he goes off on some kind of a job, but you'd think that, okay, maybe change it up a little bit. Like maybe, but again, I'm fascinated. The thing that gets me excited is James Mangold, because I've really liked overall his output over the last 2 decades. He's always been making, I think if Spielberg wasn't directing, he's probably the perfect director. I mean, Ford v Ferrari, Logan. I mean, there's nobody that's going to treat this material, I think, better than him as far as major Hollywood directors go. And obviously he's scripted as well. So I would imagine that we're going to get the best version of Indiana Jones 5 that we got. Now, I know it's probably sacrilege to say probably better than a Spielberg directed, but there's a lot of apologies I need for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And so this gives me hope. So ultimately, John, I'm excited about the movie. I wonder, though, I think they're going to be really fighting Harrison Ford's age, and they have to make sure that the action scenes, they're not the same kind of action scenes that we saw in Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade.
Well, I'll say this you don't often hear this phrase. I'll say this for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I felt one of the good things, one of the wins, I'll say, for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was I never felt like they made Harrison Ford do anything that I just would have straight out thought unbelievable that a man that age could do what he was doing, right? And I think they managed, because I never felt like in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that they tried to get him to do the things that he was doing in the first Raiders or, Temple of Doom or anything like that. I felt like they did write it to reflect the age he was at. If they can do that again, they might be on good ground. And as far as changing up his look, okay, number one, they made it clear in Last Crusade about why the hat was so important to him, right? So you can't change the hat. The hat is vital to who he is, and we know that's probably something he would wear his whole life. I agree with you that the rest of the outfit, you would think, really? For 40 years, he's worn the same shirt and the same jacket and the same shoe. I totally get where you're coming from on that, but let's be honest, Rob. There ain't no audience anywhere that was going to have it if Indiana Jones wasn't dressed like Indiana Jones, right?
You're right. I mean, maybe we have seen Indiana Jones when he's a professor. He does dress the part of a professor. He looks nice, and we've seen him in other clothes, like in Temple of Doom when he goes to dinner. He does clean up. So maybe we'll see that. And I guess that's why they wanted those paparazzi pictures released.
So it's going to be interesting to see. Question is for you guys. It's tangible now. They're on set. They're actually shooting this damn movie, and we got pictures of Harrison Ford in the Indiana Jones costume again. Question is for you guys. How do you feel about this? Have you been excited for this movie? Have you not? Has seeing these pictures done anything to affect that? Whatever you guys are thinking about it, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions, shall we? Let's jump on over right now, and we're going to get things started here with Shay. And Shay writes, Do you have any fan castings for the MCU X-Men? I would love Jodie Turner-Smith as Storm, Ian Somerhalder as Gambit, Chris Pine as Cyclops, Charlize Theron as Mystique, Mark Strong as Xavier, and John Bernthal as Wolverine. Here's the thing about fan casting, Shay. It's pointless because you say you want those, but you may very well realize that those are all completely wrong castings once you read the script. Like, it all depends about how the characters are written. And you got to get a script first, I think, to me, unless you totally already know what you're going for in this character. But if they portray Professor X a certain way, then Mark Strong, who I love, may not be the right guy at all. If you portray Cyclops in a certain way, Chris Pine might be totally the wrong guy for it. So that's why I personally don't engage in fan castings. But hey, I do like all those people. So if they ended up announcing that, I'm for it. I'm okay with it. But it's kind of pointless to me to kind of speculate about, since I don't know exactly what it is Kevin Feige is going to be going for. I'll say this though, Rob, in the realm of fan casting, you remember back in the day when they announced that came down to two guys. When they were casting Ant-Man, it came down to two guys. It came down to Paul Rudd, and it came down to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Paul Rudd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? And by the way, Todd Fayer sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks, Todd. And I remember, Rob, and you probably remember this too, when it came out that the short list to play Ant-Man was Paul Rudd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you got to remember the era. Everybody was, well, obviously it's got to be Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's got to be Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They got to pick Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And then they announced they cast Paul Rudd. And a lot of people went, how can you pick Paul Rudd over Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Again, you got to remember, this is like 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was. How could they possibly choose Joseph Gordon-Levitt over Paul Rudd? That's a mistake. But then we saw Ant-Man. And we realized, oh yeah, for this character, the way he's written, Paul Rudd is totally the right guy over Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He is totally the better fit for this role. And that's why I don't get involved in fan casting a lot. But Rob, I know you still like your fan casting too, and it's fun to do. But I know, what do you think of this lineup that Shay just gave us with, Jodie Turner-Smith, Ian Somerhalder, Chris Pine, Charlize Theron, Mark Strong, and John Bernthal? What do you think about his list?
I mean, look, it's a fine list. Those are all fine performers. But I just think that, one, maybe a little expensive. I don't know. How do you how do you lock those people in for 3 movies or 4 movies or 6 movies? I mean, it's tough. And I think that they all have pretty established careers. So I don't know if you'd be able to put that cast together. But I mean, look, it's as valid as any other cast.
All right.
I mean, I like them.
Yeah, I think they're good performers, so we'll see what happens. All right, next up, Ryan Lohner writes, 1 of 2. Here's something that keeps me up at night. George Lucas was almost killed in a car accident at age 18. Yes, he was. I learned about that I had heard about it before, but I really learned about the details in How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, which is a great book that you should check out at some point if you get a chance. Was nearly killed in a car accident at age 18 and only survived because a safety feature failed and allowed him to be thrown clear before the final impact, which uprooted a walnut tree. That's how close we came to never getting Star Wars and having no idea what we were missing. Makes you wonder how many great stories we've actually lost along the way. And that is true. It does make you think about that. And by the way, PXZ sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thanks, man. So yeah, there is, you guys can go up and look up this story, but George Lucas, as a youngster, had a very near fatal car accident. Now, he grew up, Rob, you and I both know, he grew up as a massive fan of cars. One of the big reasons why he made American Graffiti was part of his love letter to car culture in many ways. But he nearly died in that accident. And when you read the book, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, I believe that's the exact title, they spend a lot of time talking about that and the impact that had on him moving forward and how it always kind of influenced decisions he made and how he did things based on the experience he had of nearly dying in that car accident. It was a big deal. So Rob, when you do think about it, how close we came to never getting Star Wars or anything, it's like that. When you've heard about this story, How weird is it to think about that we just nearly came that close to not having Star Wars at all?
Well, I mean, you can't. I those kinds of things I marvel at, but I don't necessarily. It doesn't keep me up at night because we did get Star Wars. And I think, that's life, John. That's the beauty of chance. What is Sting once saying about the sacred geometry of chance. I love that line. I think it's in this Heart song that's at the end of Leon, the Professional. I think that's life, and it's all happenstance and chance and fate, and I think everyone's lives are full of moments that could have gone one way but went another way. And I think that I'd like to believe that George Lucas was supposed to give us Star Wars, John, and there was nothing that was going to take it away. And I would say that accident is what gave us Star Wars, because he was inspired to perhaps chill out on the cars for a while and pursue other things. And so he started working with Coppola and all of that. So it was that accident that actually gave us Star Wars instead of perhaps the other way around.
All right, next up, we've got Edward Wells, who writes, Cruella 2 is in the works. We now get to see her killing and skinning and making coats out of dogs. Again, I know they announced a second one. That's one of the reasons why I thought, I don't know how you make another one after this, because ultimately this is leading up to this woman being somebody who murders and skins puppies, which is, not quite the tone they were setting in the first one. But who knows, maybe they'll go in a totally different direction, Edward. All right. King Kong Megatron writes in, one of two. Greetings and salutations from London, John and Rob. Zack Snyder's Justice League is available on Blu-ray in the UK, but I can't find a US release. Do you know if it's going to be released on Blu-ray in the US? I prefer Blu-rays as the audio quality is generally much better than streaming. I was curious about the physical media releases of the Snyder Cut in the US because I have always purchased DVDs and Blu-rays from the US dating back to the 2000s. DVDs and 2007 Blu-ray. Have a great day. Obviously, Rob, I don't care about physical media because I stopped collecting physical media about a decade ago. But a lot of people, physical media is still a very, very big deal. It's a super great thing. They love collecting it. You are one of those, Rob. You love your physical media. I've always thought it was strange, though, about streaming services, the idea of streaming services taking their content and then putting them on physical media. The whole reason Disney Plus makes Loki is to get people to sign up to Disney Plus. And selling Blu-rays of it is counterproductive to that. It means, why? It means saying, hey, you don't need to sign up to our service to get Loki. You just buy some DVDs or Blu-rays. It seems counterproductive to that. But Rob, it strikes me that if they're putting it out in physical media in certain parts of the world, I got to imagine at some point it's going to be available on physical media here. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I have my beautiful 4K version of Zack Snyder's Justice League with the Excalibur artwork on the front. But you just nailed it. Why it's not available in the United States. It's because people want you to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max along with the Justice's Gray version. Now, the Justice's Gray version is not released on 4K or Blu-ray, but a lot of places in the world don't have HBO Max yet. It has been shown through other services, but the reason it was released so quickly on physical media around the rest of the world is so people could buy it. People could see it, because who knows when HBO Max
is
going to be everywhere. That's why it had a foreign release. Now, I don't think, like, Jason Killar was like, nope, he's not a fan of physical media at all. And he looked upon it just like you said. Every time Warner Brothers sells a movie, that's one less subscriber we're going to get who will sign up for HBO Max to watch that movie. So that makes perfect sense to me. But, as a physical media collector, I still think physical media has life left to it. So I think eventually it will get released here, because who doesn't want extra money? And maybe in 3 or 4 months, we might see a release here. I would imagine we would at some point. But like you said, why put something out on physical media when you can get somebody to subscribe to HBO Max and watch it instead? My whole thing, John, is as good as streaming is, physical media is better. There's not as much compression. You get better audio. It's better all the way around. That's why I continue to buy physical media.
All right, next up, we got Alvin J. Elmore, who writes, I am so pumped for this new Highlander movie. Me too, brother. Perfect casting. One of my dream scenarios I wish would happen is a Guillermo del Toro directed Never-Ending Story remake. Del Toro's ability to make such strange creatures would be on full display. You know what? That's not a bad call. When you think about the nature of Guillermo del Toro's films, and then you look at a story like Never-Ending Story, it would be a different take on that story, but you're right. His ability to take these fantastical mythological-like creatures and really bring life out of them, which is something he excels at. Seeing him, Rob, trying to doing a Falcor out of Never-Ending Story, I mean, that could
I would be all over that.
Oh, that could be very special and very good. So I'd be down for that 1,000%. I'd be down for that 1,000%. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, bring it on. Let me just check something here to make sure I'm still good to go. I'm still good to go. Great. All right. Next up, we've got Casey McNatt writes, one of two. Hey, John, how are you today? I'm doing great, thank you. Saw The Conjuring 3 this weekend, and even though I thought it was still pretty good, I thought it still wasn't better than the first two. I also saw the first episode of a series I've been meaning to watch for a while. I saw the first episode of the Netflix series Dracula. Overall, I thought the first episode was pretty interesting, and I just want to know if you've seen the miniseries that was only 3 episodes and what your thoughts were. Well, okay, so first of all, Conjuring 3, not a great movie. It's not bad, though. I said on Twitter that it kind of works as a murder mystery more than it works as a horror. So, not a bad one like the first Annabelle or The Nun. Not a great one like a couple of the others, but it's an all right one. The Conjuring's okay. I did see that Dracula thing a couple of years ago because our friend Kaori loved it, so she came over and got me and Ann to watch it, and I thought that one was pretty good. Rob, have you had a chance to see either Conjuring 3 or that Dracula series?
I did watch Conjuring 3, and I liked it. I didn't love it as much as the first 2 Conjuring movies, which I thought, for what they were, very, very effective. I think I like Conjuring 1 the best. But I really enjoyed it, as you put it, as a murder mystery, as demonic possession. It was a different kind of a movie, but I still look, I would give it 3 stars out of 4, maybe 3 stars out of 5, but I liked it. I mean, I really enjoyed my time watching the movie. And I did, give me potential demonic possession. It's just something any demons possessing people, I'll watch it. Doesn't matter what it is.
Sign me
It's just
up.
one of those, it's just, yeah. But it was, I think the very subject matter, I don't think it could ever have been as effective. There's something about, to me, the Conjuring movies are about like people in their homes, that regular people tormented by creatures. And this had, once you bring in demonic possession, it seems like it's on a different level. Sort of.
Right.
If that makes sense.
All right. Next up, Darth Ruski writes, one of two. Hey, John and Rob, my favorite raucous movie experience was with a particularly rowdy group of friends that are rabid Mad Max fans to go see Fury Road. On this night, everyone at the Cinepolis was as wonderfully exaggerated as the characters in the movie. We arrived on a pack of miscreant wasteland motorcycles, strolled up, clad in leather and primed up, ready for action. That night, we were our own gang of war boys, and it was glorious. Oh, what a day. What a lovely day. May you ride eternal, shiny, and chrome. Listen, that's awesome. Because, Rob, listen, I get a huge kick out of this. I love it. Even when, back in the day, when the Sex and the City movie came out, I had zero interest in a Sex and the City movie. Actually, the movie turned out to be pretty good. I liked the first Sex and the City movie. I thought it was a good movie, and I don't give a crap about Sex and the City. But what made it really fun to me is that when I showed up there, all the women were decked out. Like they were all did their best Sex and the City hair, their best Sex and the City shoes, their best Sex and the City outfits. And you could tell that before 1 second of film started to roll, this was a crowd and a group of people that were really into what they were about to see. And you know what? That made it fun. Even though I didn't care about I didn't care about the series itself. It made it fun instantly. And I'll never forget going into the theater. And I think I'm remembering this right now, but going into the theater and I realized, am I like the only guy here? And some dude about 2 minutes before the movie started, some dude somewhere else in the theater says, does anybody else in here have a penis? And you saw just a couple of hands go up. There weren't many men in the audience at the time, but I'll tell you, those girls were there to have fun. It's like going to a Star Wars movie, man, when everybody's decked out in their Jedi robes and things like that. It's or a MCU launch, seeing everybody dressed up in their favorite Avengers kind of stuff. That sort of stuff to me is a lot of fun, and I love that stuff. And to me, Rob, my favorite experience of something like that was actually for the premiere of Avengers, the first Avengers movie. We were already doing AMC at the time, and we had all this was before pre-assigned seating, Rob. So everybody was lined up all outside, down the courtyard and the promenade. Everywhere was lines everywhere outside, because it was running on 16 screens, 5, 6, 7 screenings a day. And there were thousands of people out there, and we got to go out and walk the lines and talk to people who were all in their different costumes, and they were there to have a good time. And that just made it fun. So if you could do that for Mad Max, I don't know, that's awesome. Rob, do you have a favorite experience like that, where, you know, you went to see a movie and everybody was like all like completely decked out and into it? And what was your favorite experience like that?
Well, I don't know if one of my favorite experiences ever seeing a movie was in Sitges, the festival in Spain, and I went to an early morning screening of Battle Royale.
Oh, nice.
And I literally slept on the beach. I swear to God, slept on the beach, stroll into the screening at 10 in the morning, and it was like being at a rock concert. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Battle Royale, you should see Battle Royale. By the way, a brand new, beautiful 4K set was released by Arrow, if you want to get your physical media of it. But Battle Royale it's kind of like Hunger Games, but kids junior high kids are really killing each other. It's a Japanese film. It's amazing. And every death, John, it was hooting and hollering. You'd think you were at some kind of, I don't know, political rally. It was so beautiful, because everybody was just I couldn't imagine an audience into something more than they were into that. And it was, I loved it. I mean, I felt like, my God, I've come home. These are my people. They understand.
Good morning, students. It's a great day for killing. Yep.
I mean, if you haven't seen Battle Royale, first of all, why? Shame on you. It's a fantastic film, but it also delivers the goods. But in terms of seeing people dressed up and getting decked out, I mean, I hate to admit this, but there were 2 times, both The Phantom Menace and The Force Awakens. The anticipation for those films, forget what you might think of those movies, but the anticipation, people were dressed up and people were just hugely excited, and there was a joy to all of it, because Star Wars brings people joy. And they were all dressed up, and that was a lot of fun, seeing families and whole families dressed up as Jedi Knights or stormtroopers or whatever. And those Star Wars movies, more than any other, brought out the fans like you'd never seen them before, and it was great.
It was great. All right, next up, Aaron06 writes, "Hey John and Rob, I love watching you guys. Thank you so much. So I just recently watched the last 3 Fast and Furious movies. I've never seen them and wanted to prepare for Fast 9. And although it's over the top, I just want F10 to be called Fast 10 Your Seatbelts. And if it's not, I'm not watching." Yeah, it is. And look, I say this as, you guys know this, I'm a big fan of Fast and the Furious 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I am a huge fan of Vin Diesel. I love that guy. And I liked Hobbs and Shaw very much. I hated Fast 9. I hated F9. I thought it's just, they took the things that make it work, but then even if there's something that makes it work, when you do it way, 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 way too much, it becomes stupid. And listen, right now, Rob, Fast 9, it's got a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And now, it's granted, there's only like 25 reviews, but that means the majority of our peers like it. So take that as you will. I mean, Rob and I hate this movie, but that doesn't mean you're going to hate it. So get out there,
Right.
go watch Fast 9 and see how it works for you, my friend. See how it works for you. All right, next up. Stubble McShave writes, do you think that they announced Cruella 2 just to drum up interest for Cruella 1? Just because they announced it doesn't mean that they have to go through with it. Well, that's true. How many times have they announced Star Trek 4 just to walk back on it later? That's true. Rob, another one that I think about a lot, when a movie came out and they announced that they were doing a second one and then it never happened, was that Dragon movie with Jeremy Irons, Aragon. No, that was the Dungeons and Dragons movie, was with Jeremy Irons. No, Jeremy Irons was also in Aragon. That's right. So that Aragon movie, this is movie 1. We're doing movie 2, everybody. And they announced movie 2. But then, of course, the first movie sucked and it tanked and they didn't do number 2. When the last Star Trek movie came out, which I thought was quite good, but when that movie came out, they announced the next one is going to have, Chris Hemsworth is coming back to play George Kirk again and all that kind of stuff. But then that obviously didn't go anywhere. Do I think that's what they did here with Cruella, Wap? Do I think that they actually have no intention of doing Cruella 2 and they just did it to keep attention on Cruella? It wouldn't be a bad business move, but I don't think so. I don't think that I think they do plan on doing another Cruella. I think they are banking on the fact that even though it hasn't done great business, it's getting really good reception, and they think they can parlay that and roll that into success if they do another one. So I think they are doing it. Rob, do you think they're actually planning on doing a Cruella 2?
I think so. I mean, that's an interesting theory that trying to drum up, but Emma Stone is an Academy Award. Oh, she's a winning actress now, right? She's an Academy Award winning actress. So, I mean, I think that why not? But again, we don't know what the real numbers are and the money, but I think I think right now they definitely intend to do it.
All right,
I'd say that.
All right, next up. Dave Green writes, hey, John, I agree with you that a sequel to Cruella is not necessary. However, how would you feel if they just made the sequel to Cruella the newest version of 101 Dalmatians movie with Emma Stone's character as the villain? Thanks, John, and good day. I honestly, Dave, it's an interesting question, dude. I don't know how I'd feel about that because we just went from watching Cruella as the protagonist of a movie and kind of cheering for her. And now we go into a live action version of 101 Dalmatians where she is to the character that we know, the one that is the puppy killing, skinning, villainous of the movie. So I don't know. So there's a part of it, dude, that actually sounds a little bit appealing to me, but another of it that thinks it could be rather problematic. So it's a great question, Dave. The answer is, I don't know how I'd feel about it. All right, next up, Wes Maurer writes, hey, John and Rob, just piggybacking off my last question about Kevin Feige having someone else run X-Men, which you answered perfectly, by the way. Thank you, Wes. But what if they have Deadpool bounce back and forth between the MCU and the XCU as some connective tissue, keeping it PG and then still have Deadpool solo movies rated R? Okay. So, Rob, you know that this is a version of a question we've had a lot of people ask. Well, why not just have Deadpool in MCU movies that are PG, and then when he's in his solo movies, have him do rated R? Bob Iger actually addressed that once. He actually discussed that specifically, saying that's not really an option on the table for us. At least that's what he said at the time, because we would be sending mixed messages to our families. We're telling our families, oh, you can come see a movie with Deadpool and bring the kids and have a good time and get your kids excited about Deadpool. But then we're going to put out a movie with Deadpool that your kids are going to want to see that you can't bring them to see. Then we're going to do a movie with Deadpool. So we have him in an Ant-Man movie. He's in an Ant-Man movie, chumming it up, and it's all PG. Yay, Deadpool, and get your kids excited. And then when we're promoting our next Deadpool standalone movie, you got to tell your kids you're not allowed to go because it's rated R. And Iger talked about that we're going to have to come up with a consistent way of doing it. So I don't know that it's actually an option. And do not underestimate, dude, how seriously Disney takes fostering that trust and that relationship with families. That they are very, very serious about that. At least Iger has been. How serious Chapek will be, we'll have to wait and see. But they've considered for a while not to really be an option because you're going to create confusion. And you're going to send mixed messages to the families that, yes, you can bring your kiddies to see Deadpool, but now you can't. And that is a very real problem. Not for us, but for Disney, that's a very real problem. Rob, what do you think about that? Like, how do you think they should approach Deadpool right now? Like, is it, do you think, feasible to, like, I'm thinking it's not, but do you think it's feasible to have him in PG movies and then have him do R-rated movies and hop back and forth? What do you think?
You know, I don't know how feasible that is because they've already established through 2 very successful movies the kind of entertainment we get with Deadpool. And I don't think that if they dilute that presentation with a PG movie, it's not the same Deadpool. It's not what people responded to. And so to change it, I mean, you could bring that character in, but I can't help but think we would get the impression that he's been neutered. You know, they've done it for, he's a very specific kind of a character. And frankly, you know, to my mind, where Deadpool exists is he's not really an X-Men character in the films. He's more of a meta, because he's a broken fourth wall character. He exists in sort of a twilight zone of a broken fourth wall. And I think that you put him in a regular MCU movie and treat him as just, say, a mutant character, well, that's going to be no fun because you're waiting for Deadpool to be dead. Deadpool's got a Deadpool, John, and if he's not, I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm with you. I would like to see Deadpool remain his own thing as opposed to being incorporated. I mean, the idea of incorporating him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is fine, but I would rather see him exist in that sort of twilight zone of fourth wall breaking so he could talk to anybody. You know, you never know. Maybe Thanos would show up once. Maybe you don't know. and leave him there so he could interact with the MCU, but not be in the MCU, if that makes any sense.
I see what you're saying on that. That makes sense. All right. And by the way, Max Bolton sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Max. Appreciate that, man. All right, let's move on here. Next up, Jesse writes, 1 of 2. John, let me be the next in a long line to say that I hate that Loki is on Wednesdays. Why? Mostly selfish reasons, no doubt. But it's become tradition in my family that every Friday we come together with pizza and drinks to watch the new Marvel series. With it releasing on Wednesdays, we have 2 choices. Either we all watch it without each other on Wednesdays, or wait until Fridays knowing very well that it'll probably be spoiled for us by then. Now I'll shut up as this is grade A first world problems. Thanks. No, I listen, and I get what you're talking about. They have, Disney Plus had created a little bit of a tradition, Rob, of the new shows, the new big premiere shows comes out on Thursday night or Friday, depending on where you live, right? And a lot of people like you, like Rob, I know you and Elizabeth would have your Friday morning tradition. What did you call it again? Your Friday morning tradition is watching the new Disney Plus show?
Mandalorian morning.
Mandalorian morning is what you called it, right? So I think a lot of people have created those kind of traditions, and that is a drawback of them moving it. Now, I still think they made the move to Wednesday because of, honestly, because of a technical issue, because of server load. I think they knew they could spread out the server load and have a better viewing experience for people, but it is what it is. How much of an impact this will have, I don't know. I expect, Rob, the next series will go back to Fridays, but I don't know. How are you feeling right now about the Wednesday release dates for Loki?
Well, he is a mischief maker, John, and if he's going to bring me some midweek mayhem, I'm down for it.
All right.
I'm in.
Let's move on. Next up is Roll of the Egg, who writes, Hey, John and Co. You mentioned the upcoming Netflix animated series Treese, so I looked up the trailer. You may not find it interesting, but I can't wait. I am not an anime person, but Thursdays can't come soon enough unless it already has. Love your show. Let the filthy come forth, I'm going to guess. I don't know. Anyway, Rob, somebody brought up this Treese. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Trese. And I mentioned I'm not generally really down with a lot of anime stuff. I haven't heard of this one. Have you heard of this one at all?
I do not know it.
All right. Well, Roll the Egg.
Sorry, I'm going to hang my head in shame, John.
Well, here's the thing. The good news, Roll the Egg, is that you just put it on a lot of people's radar by bringing it up. So good on you, and I hope you enjoy it when you watch it, dude. Roll the Egg also writes, "Hey, John and Co., baby diarrhea with the stench of rotting flesh. John, you have an amazing way with words, sir. Just glad I finished eating a late lunch. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, by the way, before you cut loose with that combo. Appreciate your show. Let the filthy come forth." Yeah, I cannot remember now what movie we were talking about. A movie came. Do you guys in the live chat remember what movie we were talking about when I said that? I said, this movie is like baby diarrhea with the stench of rotting flesh. I cannot remember what movie that was we were discussing. If any of you guys in the live chat remember, throw it in there and let me know. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, dude, glad you're here and joining us. What's Fantastic Four? Is it? I don't think I would have said that about Fantastic Four. Thunder Force. That's probably what I was talking about. Ryan in the live chat is saying Thunder Force, so that's probably the one I was talking about. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Roll the Egg. Next up. Oh, no. Angel puts it in. That's the one we were talking about. Justice League Apocalypse War. That's the one we were talking about. I was all upset because everybody recommended I watch it today and said, "You're going to like this, John," and I watch it, and that I'm sorry, that movie sucks. Anyway. That's just my opinion. It's all subjective. All right, next up, we've got Ryan Lohner, who writes, "I could be the new leader of the Avengers. I really don't think you, of all people, should be talking shit about this, Rob Stark." Now, wait a minute. In Rob Stark's defense, he was winning the war, man. He was winning the war. Rob Stark, don't go all negative on Rob Stark. Rob Stark was winning the war before they got him, somebody to double cross and betray him at the Red Wedding. So that he was winning that war. So don't be too hard on Rob Stark. All right, next up, Mike Smith writes, "Hey, John, first time tipper. Thank you, Mike, for being here and supporting the channel, man. What are your thoughts on the Arrowverse as a whole? Superman and Lois is awesome, but the rest of the shows are losing a lot of steam. It's even hard to get through The Flash now. Should they reboot the whole thing? Thanks." You know, it's a good question, Rob. The Arrowverse is something that I never thought was a good idea in the first place. But I at some point got really on board. Like, I thought the Arrow show sounded stupid. And then I watched it and I got really into it. Then they said, "We're doing a Flash spin-off show." And I said, that sounds stupid. But then I watched it and I really liked it. I wasn't interested at all in Black Lightning. And then I watched it and I really liked it. I wasn't interested in Supergirl. Well, you know, I'm still not interested in Supergirl, but there was a time when the Arrowverse was really firing on all cylinders and it was really great. But then Arrow itself started to become hit and miss. The Flash, that one scene with, what was the name of the villain? I can't even remember the name. The guy who was in the chair with the big brain thinking cap. I can't remember the name of the character, but that season came and it was the first, to me, it was the first bad season of Flash. And I've been trying to keep up with this season of the Flash. And it's becoming a little bit hard to follow through with it. And it's becoming hard to, I used to watch an episode of The Flash, and if there was another one waiting, I'd instantly watch the next episode. But I don't find myself doing that now. Ever since Arrow went off the air, it doesn't really feel like there's an Arrowverse anymore. I personally, Rob, DeVoe, thank you. Dragon 10 is saying DeVoe. Dragon 10 and Emil Johnson are saying DeVoe. That's the name of the character. Yeah, that was really the first bad season to me of The Flash. Rob, I don't know how you feel. I think it's just time to end the Arrowverse. If you want, and what I mean by that is, I think it's time for them to just do standalone shows. I think this Arrowverse thing has run its course. I think it was good for a period of time. I think we had some good things come out of it. I think it's time to just end the Arrowverse. That doesn't mean you can't come out with new shows, but just come out with some new shows. And I don't know. What do you think they should do with it right now?
Well, look, I like Superman and Lois.
I do too. But I don't see that as part of the Arrowverse, you know. I see that kind of separate from the Arrowverse.
It's like even though Taylor Hoechlin was part of that, but I see that show as almost a standalone show. I think that they should take the same route that the rest of the DC universe is going. Make standalone projects, make them good. They're going to do a Green Lantern show. They're going to do these other shows. Allow them to exist on their own. and make them great. And if you want to bring in, we're sophisticated enough as audience members. If we understand that you could be watching all kinds of adventures with these characters, and if you want to have somebody cross over and it's a good story, go ahead and do that. And don't be worried about some extended continuity. I think it can be done without that, because unless you have set out from the very beginning the way the MCU did, you're never going to catch up. You're never going to do it as well as they're doing it. So why bother? Just tell great stories.
I agree. All right, next up, we've got Willow, who writes, I'm not holding my breath for a District 9 sequel, but if it ever happens, I hope it actually be like How It Should Have Ended parody, where Christopher returns to Earth with an army to take revenge on the racist humans. Yeah, listen, Rob, to this day, because Willow brings up a good point here. To this day, I have no idea why they never did a District 9 sequel. They made that movie so inexpensively, and they made a very good profit, and people liked it. The critics loved it. Let me just bring up the exact amount of money, because I believe it was made for like 30 or either between 30 and $60 million, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but it was made incredibly inexpensively. $30 million, Rob. They made District 9 for $30 million with all these CGI aliens and all that kind of stuff. And they made $210 million worldwide. 7 times its production budget. The audiences loved it. The critics loved it. The box office loved it. And if they had done another one, it would have made even more. And I have no idea why they never did another one. And it's quite frankly, Rob, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, it's too late now. Now it is too late to go back. I don't think you can do a District 10 now. I think that
I don't either.
I think that ship has come and gone. I really think they should have done a sequel. They didn't. Rob, do you have any kind of theories about why that never happened?
Well, I mean, I think people have to have good stories. And I think that Neil Blomkamp after District 9 was looked at as somebody, look, he gets to go on and work with Jodie Foster and Matt Damon, and he got to step up his game and play in the big leagues. And that's what District 9 bought him. So why go back? I mean, you go back when nothing else has worked out how you hoped. But I don't think he needed to do that right away. I think he went and made his own movies like Elysium and like Chappie and the other things he was working on. He was trying to, get Alien 3 out, or a new Alien off the ground. And it didn't quite work out for him. But I'm hoping that, he makes Demonic. To me, that looks good. Like I told you, John, you give me possession and demons, I'm in. So I'm hoping it's good. And then maybe he'll come back to that, because I love that world.
Yeah,
it's just a fascinating world,
I agree. All right, next up, El Duderino writes, after everything is taken care of in the Multiverse of Madness, that's the new Doctor Strange movie, a final end credit scene shows a building in shambles, and Deadpool walks into the frame, and he looks at the camera and says, "What the F?" Cut to black. I mean, listen, again, that's something I'd get a kick out of. But again, Disney is not going to introduce, hey, parents, in our PG-13 movie you brought your kids to, we're going to introduce this character that you then got to look at your kids and say you're not allowed to come to his actual movie. So I don't know. But I got to say, El Duderino, I think Rob and I would both get a significant kick out of that if they actually did it. All right. Sam Weiser Gamgee writes, hey, guys, I wanted to share my top 10 films of all time. All right, here we go. Number 10, Forbidden Planet. Number 9, King Kong, the 1933 version. Number 8, The Day the Earth Stood Still, the 1951 version, not the Keanu Reeves version, Rob. It's an important distinction. Right. Important distinction there. 7, the 1960 version of Time Machine. Number 6, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Number 5, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Pretty much universally acknowledges the most beloved of the Star Trek movies. I think mine is still Voyage Home. I think mine might be Voyage Home, but at any rate. And number 4, Lord of the Rings, one book, one movie is Lord of the Rings. Number 3, Blazing Saddles, Where the White Women At? It was one of the funniest moments in the history of movies. Number 2, Empire Strikes Back. And number 1, the 1960 version of The Magnificent Seven. Unpopular opinion, but I thought the Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt version of The Magnificent Seven, nowhere near as good as the original. I actually thought that was pretty good. Rob, do any of these movies that Sam Weiser has listed here, any of these movies stand out to you as ones that really mean something to you?
Movies I grew up with, The Time Machine. I mean, I learned how to say Yvette Mimay because she stars in that movie and her last name has an X in it. And I'm like, how the hell does that, how do you say that? I loved Rod Taylor and Yvette Mimay in The Time Machine. I love the Morlocks. I loved all of it. And then, of course, Day the Earth Stood Still. You know, when I was a kid, it was probably the most meaningful movie to me in terms of, oh, this means so much. You know, it was the first science fiction movie that made me contemplate, I think, as a 6-year-old, what life was all about. You know, so, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of my favorite Bond films. So there you go. It's a great list full of classics.
Full of classics. Next up, Art Teacher Movie Fan writes, hello, John. Thanks for your birthday wishes last week. Thank you so much. A happy anniversary to Anne and you. Jealous for Blue Bayou. That's our favorite too. Enjoy Disneyland. My now fiance, Rob, and I got engaged in the middle of Small World and then ate at Napa Rose. Love your show, Casey. And I love that you brought that up because, yeah, Rob, there's a restaurant in Disneyland. Because honestly, a lot of the food at Disneyland sucks. I love Disneyland and everything, but a lot of the food is bottom of the barrel. They make it as cheap as possible and then charge you $15 for it. Like even just grabbing a pizza slice from it. It's some of the worst pizza I've ever had. But they'll charge you like $8 a slice. But they do have a couple of higher class restaurants. And my favorite is the restaurant that you sit in that the people on the boats at the Pirates of the Caribbean ride float by you at night. And it's set like you're in an old Louisiana swamp. You have the sounds of the crickets. They keep the lights really low. You're right on the water. It's and the food is incredible. It's called Blue Bayou. If you've not been there, everybody, if you get to Disneyland, go to Blue Bayou. It's a little expensive. It's not totally ridiculous, but it's a little expensive as everything at Disneyland is. But I think you'll really, really like it. Rob, have you ever had a chance to eat there?
Dude, I love the Blue Bayou. Just like what you said. Love it, love it, love it. But I think my favorite food in Disneyland is actually the giant turkey legs at California Adventure.
Yeah, Anne likes that too.
They're so good.
Anne likes that a lot too. All right,
but I like going to Disneyland and eating my way through the park.
Yes, I get that too. And churros. The churros there are good. All right. By the way, Epic Dub Time sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Epic Dub Time. I appreciate that, man. All right, let's get back over here. Next up, we have an anonymous viewer who writes, hey, John. So I love the Spider-Man movies and grew up with Tobey Maguire version, but also like Tom Holland's version. That being said, do you people going into, you probably meant think, do you think people going into this movie will be disappointed that are only going to see it because of Spider-Verse? Okay, so what I think you're asking is, do I think that people are going to be disappointed if they're expecting to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and they don't get it? And the answer to that is yes. But you know what? Here's the thing. I can't remember what I was watching yesterday, but I was watching something yesterday where they brought up this incredible quote that I love. Okay. Let me get it up here first. Get the text up here for a second if I can. But the basic idea, the quote is this, and I can't get it on screen. Hold a second. Okay, here we go. So the quote is this, if you'll indulge me for a second. Expectations, and I cannot get it to write properly. Also, I'm trying it again. There we go. Expectations are the thief of joy. Expectations are the thief of joy. I heard somebody, I know what. Somebody was bringing it up regarding some tech announcement that got made. But I remember hearing them say that. And I was like, that's exactly applicable to the movie and TV fan community right now. Expectations is the thief of joy. Because you create a certain, we've been talking about this a lot, Rob, especially since WandaVision, that people create expectations in their head about what they think is going to happen. And then their joy is completely now dependent on that thing happening. And if that thing doesn't happen, then I'm not going to be happy. What, Evan Peters isn't the Quicksilver from X-Men? Boo! And meanwhile, they let their expectation, and I do it too, and all of us in fandom do it. We all do this. We allow that expectation to steal away the joy we would have got from it if we just took the story as it was and just take the story as it's being presented. But we go into things with certain expectations, and then we allow that our own expectations to kill any joy we could have had from that thing. And I think we all do it, Rob. And yeah, to answer your question, yes. So many people have talked about it being fact, and it's not yet. Being fact that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be co-starring in the new Spider-Man film. They're going to be swinging through the city with Tom Holland, and it's going to be all Spidey all the time. And I think there are some people who've now so bought into that even if the next Spider-Man movie is the greatest comic book movie of all time, there are going to be a lot of people walking out grumbling and crying and whining that there wasn't Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. And they'll totally miss the fact that it might have been the greatest comic book movie of all time. Expectations are the thief of joy. So, yeah, Anonymous, I think you're right. I think if people go in there expecting to see that, there are going to be some who won't allow themselves to enjoy the movie as it is. I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, I love that phrase. Expectations are the thief of joy. I think now, especially because here's something that's sort of unique. I mean, especially with comic book movies, we all know these comic books, and the people that are big fans, you can go in and look at decades of Marvel lore, and there is legitimate things to say, oh, if this is happening, then perhaps this is going to happen, as if as if it's going to be all things to all people. So the speculation when people, especially during WandaVision, you saw a lot of that. With Agatha and with, maybe this is going to happen or that's going to happen because this happened in the comics. So there's all these places we can turn to look to see, well, what could potentially happen. And I think that in a way, there's no one's going to stop us from speculating. But as I get older, closer to death, John, I've learned to sort of just chill out and let it happen. Feel the force flow over you, and take it. And try and take it for what it is and not what it isn't. I feel so often people are reviewing things as they're reviewing things not the way that they are, but the way people want them to be. And that, in a way, doesn't allow you to accept things for what they really are. And sometimes there's things that I think are really, really good that aren't considered that good because they disappointed people, but they really are. If you took a closer look and be like, no, this is actually very, very good. And you're reviewing something that doesn't actually exist as opposed to what does.
And again, I think that's something we're probably all guilty of from time to time, but we got to catch it when we do. Anyway, Rob, we've kept you a bit over time. Thanks again for being here today, my friend. We'll see you again later. But in the meantime, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot for being here. Great job today, and I'll talk to you again later, my friend. Have a good one.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. He'll, of course, be back on here tomorrow. But for now, we've got a little more. I got to cut today's show a little bit short, but we still have a few minutes left here. So let's keep going through your questions here, shall we? We're going to pick things up here with the Sock, who writes, I'm getting some real Gangs of New York vibes from Warrior, only except instead of the Irish being persecuted, it's them doing the persecuting. Yeah, it all depends. I love these history things too. And I again, don't need a show like Warrior or any piece of fiction to strictly adhere to the actual events of history. That's for documentaries and educational videos. I don't need my movies to do that, but it is really fun seeing it come to life in many ways, and I am just loving this show, Sock. I'm absolutely loving it. All right, Licardo writes, Hey, John and crew. I've been a Spider-Man fan for most of my life. Other than Kraven's Last Hunt, what is your next favorite story arc? Mine is Assassination Plot. Thanks for the great content. Listen, it's always unpopular when I say this. It's always unpopular when I say this, but I'm, if I want to be cool, I would say something else, but I'm always honest with you guys. My actual favorite storyline over the years in Spider-Man comics is one that is actually very unpopular with a lot of... I'm just going to see before I say it, if you guys... Just me saying that. My favorite one is actually one that's very unpopular with a lot of people. Let's see if any of you guys in the live chat can guess which Spider-Man storyline I'm talking about here. I'm not sure you're going to be able to say it, but actually, Chris, Suthius, Dominic, you all got it. It's the Ben Reilly storyline, the Clone Saga. Now, I didn't love everything about the Clone Saga, but I remember, reading comics at the time. It was a kind of storyline that I had never remembered ever kind of reading anything like it. And everybody's saying, yeah, it's the Clone Saga, the Clone Saga, the Clone Saga. It was unlike anything I had read in a comic, a type of story I had not read in the comics before. And I found myself feeling so much empathy for who became known as Ben Reilly. I remember feeling so much empathy for the character and later on what he became and stuff like that. And I gotta say, for me, that is still kind of like my favorite Spider-Man single kind of isolated story arc that they've done. And I still think about it a lot. I think about that story arc a lot. But I know for a lot of Spider-Man fans, that is a very controversial storyline that a lot of people didn't like. And I get it. I too. It didn't do everything perfectly. And I get why a lot of people, it didn't work for them as much. But for me, that's one that I actually really enjoyed. All right. Thanks for asking, Ricardo. Next up, we've got some dude writes, I'm working on a Jafar script as we speak, where his parents were killed by a pack of wild genie lamps. Okay. I like that. That's good. I like that. His parents were killed by a pack of... He's got a little bit of a revenge story going on in there. Anyway, UFC commentator... Well done, some dude. All right, UFC commentator writes, Hey, John, as a lover of Star Wars and trailers myself, I believe the two best Star Wars trailers to be the first Mandalorian trailer, where you open with Stormtrooper helmets on spikes with the drumming music, or the Last Jedi trailer with Andy Serkis. Telling Kylo Ren about his raw power. What are your top Star Wars trailers? Thanks for the great show, and bring Kimberly Kern back as much as possible. Thanks. Yeah, Kimberly was just on yesterday, as a matter of fact. Honestly, if you've seen my documentary, which I will now take the opportunity to shamelessly plug, if you've seen my documentary, Movie Trailers, A Love Story, there's actually an entire chapter of this where we focus on the trailer for The Phantom Menace. I think The Phantom Menace may be the greatest, the first trailer for The Phantom Menace may be the most important and the best movie trailer of all time. I think in the discussion of what is the most important movie trailer of all time, I think there are two trailers in contention for that. One is the Phantom Menace trailer. One is the first Iron Man trailer that debuted at Comic-Con. And again, there's an entire chapter based on that Iron Man trailer in my documentary as well, which you should totally go and check out. Anywhere in the world that you live, you can see it go get it at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. Or if you live in the US or the UK, you can go and get it on Amazon. If you live in the US or UK, just go on Amazon, search for Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and you should be able to find it there. Anyway, now that I have plugged my movie, Phantom Menace. Even though I hate the movie, it is, I think, the best Star Wars trailer ever. And again, I think it is probably the most important trailer ever. Now, we go into a full, large discussion with many, film experts and stuff like that as to why I think it's the most important trailer ever. But yeah, I still think that Phantom Menace trailer, man, that was so good. You want to talk about, because we always say that, the job of a trailer is to take your excitement level, no matter how high it is or how low it is, and then bump it up a couple of notches. Well, everybody was already excited for Star Wars coming back when the Phantom Menace was coming. But that trailer dropped and it skyrocketed it. Like, it tripled the excitement for that movie. And it did its job better than most. So I will say that the very first Phantom Menace trailer is the best and most important Star Wars trailer, and probably the most important trailer of any film of all time, in my opinion. All right, so there's that. All right, next up, we've got Mike Prez, who writes, Marvel Studios Animation presents What If Season 2, Episode 1, Spider-Man. What if Disney had the film rights? That's good. Well said. Peter visits Hollywood and meets the actor playing him. Someone good, maybe Pauly Shore. Hey, listen, I am not at all excited about the Marvel series What If. Now, I had zero interest because, generally speaking, I don't like DC or Marvel straight-to-home video kind of animation. And What If is a straight-to-home video market animation by Marvel, so I'm not that excited about it. But I will admit, at D23 a couple of years ago, when they showed us the first bit of footage from the upcoming What If series, I must admit I did find it pretty intriguing. Now, I'm not saying that I think this is actually going to be great. I still have my doubts about it, and I'm still not super excited about it, but we'll see. But I like your idea for season 2, man. I do like your idea for season 2. All right, next up, Glenn writes, Hey, John, no one seems to have mentioned if Deadpool 3 was rated R. Well, no, they have. Like, a little while ago, Kevin Feige was talking about how we're not going to make MCU movies R, but we are going to make Deadpool R. So that's official. The Deadpool movies are going to be R. So we do know that. Anyway, if it was rated R, it would lose the China market. This is a country that censored Joey for putting Ross's pic on his stick on Friends reunion. If you were Disney execs, would you choose to R-rate or extra hundreds of millions? Well, no, here's the thing, Glenn. Deadpool without China, the two Deadpool films without China made $1.5 to $1.6 billion between them. Like they were the highest box office R-rated movies of all time, I believe, at the time when they came out. And they made collectively like over $1.5 billion at the box office. These things are huge. And they didn't play in China. At some point, though, they did play an edited version of the first Deadpool in China. They did at some point. But that notwithstanding, when Deadpool and Deadpool 2 both first came out, they never played China, and they were enormously successful. Could they make more if they did play in China? Sure, but if you're the Disney execs, you also have to think of this. How many hundreds of millions of dollars are you going to lose out on by making Deadpool PG-13? Because you take Deadpool, which Kevin Feige said, it's now firmly established what Deadpool is. You can't change that. So if Disney suddenly came out of nowhere and, say, made Deadpool PG-13, that is going to piss a lot of your audience off, and you're going to lose out on hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions. I mean, don't get me wrong, a PG-13 Deadpool film would still be a hit, but it wouldn't make $800 million. It maybe would make $500 and something million. It would still be very successful, but you're probably losing out on $200, $250, $300 million. So can you make that up in China? Nah, not for a Deadpool movie. So Disney's already been very clear. Deadpool 3 is going to be R-rated. And yeah, they might lose out on a little bit of money in China, but I propose that they would lose out on even more money if they try to scale it back to a PG-13. So that's how I kind of see the business of. I might be right. I might be wrong. Don't know for sure, but that's kind of just the way I see it. Okay. Let's go. Let's do one more before we wrap up today. This one comes to us from Mike Prez, who writes, one of two. Let me preface by saying it can't legally be Tom Holland-like, but Disney has the TV animated Spider-Man rights. John, I'm thinking Batman the Animated Series, Invincible. I'm thinking about money. If Disney and Sony are taking an amicable hiatus, then what a great opportunity for Disney Plus to start their second What If series, Spider-Man the Animated Series. It could have Kraven, Morbius, Venom, The Daily Bugle, all while having a linear timeline hinting along the way of what reality they live in. You could, but here's the thing. There have been a lot of Spider-Man animated series over the years. There have been many Spider-Man series over the years, and none of them have done fantastic. I mean, they've done well by Saturday morning cartoon kind of measuring sticks, but none of them have ever been like overwhelming, blockbustery kind of huge number things, right? So I don't know that there's any reason to believe. I don't think you can point to any facts that say if you did an animated Spider-Man TV series now, it would be a hit. Maybe, but there's not a lot to back that claim up with, because there has been a lot. And none of them have been particularly super successful. Not on the level of success. Maybe successful by Saturday morning cartoon level successful, but by Disney Plus level success, there's never been a Spider-Man animated series that's come close to that. So I don't know. Maybe. But remember, something has never happened until it does happen, right? Right? Everything has never happened until it does. So maybe a new Spider-Man anime. I just don't think Kevin Feige is going to put his energy or attention into that. I really don't. Not if Sony's off doing live action Spider-Man. I just don't think they'll do it. I don't know that. I'm not saying that is a definitive fact. I'm just saying I have kind of a hard time believing that they would do it. So yeah, I don't think they will. Anyway, guys, I got to wrap up a little bit early here today. So that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here and making this show a part of your day. Thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his glory and goodness. And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live comments and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the John Campea Show, thank you very much for your support. And by the way, there are still more questions to come from Mike Prez, Anonymous, Kamada, Hot Rod Todd, and others. Do not worry. I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later this afternoon, and we will get caught up on most of these questions. And again, guys, don't forget, tomorrow, 4 or 5 p.m. Los Angeles time, I haven't made a final decision yet, we are going to be doing our first open spoiler discussion of Loki. Episode 1, our open spoiler discussion of that is tomorrow. I hope you guys plan on joining us for that. And don't forget to join us for the John Campea Show tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you guys here. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.